I'm just trying to do the live stream, but it's okay if it doesn't work.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to episode 7 of the White Light Collective podcast. I'm Monique Morrison, founder of Moonbeam Healing, and I'm so grateful you're here with us for another soul nourishing conversation. This podcast is all about exploring the paths that lead us back to alignment, healing, and the heart. And today's guest truly embodies all of that and more. Joining us today is the radiant Julie Premo, founder of Infinite Healing Arts and a deeply dedicated healing arts practitioner. Julie's journey into this work began with her natural gifts of empathy and intuition as a child, and it has evolved over the years into a full heart mission to support others through energy healing, movement, and mindfulness. Julie is trained in a wide range of healing modalities, including Reiki, QiGong, crystal sound bowls, Access consciousness bars, Axiatonal alignment, and in 2024, she completed her 200-hour yoga teacher training and now teaches at All for Yoga. Whether she's teaching one-on-one sessions, corporate wellness days, or Reiki training, her intention remains the same: to help others align their mind, body, and spirit through unconditional love and intentional living. So today we'll be diving into the healing power of energy work and movement, how practices like Reiki, yoga, Axiatonal alignment can help us reconnect to ourselves, what it means to follow your North Star and live in an alignment with your purpose, and how we can all begin to bring more peace, presence, and love into our daily lives. And don't forget, we're also giving away a $25 Moonbeam Healing gift card to one lucky viewer who comments during the live show. So be sure to say hello, ask a question, or just share your light with us. All right. So let's dive in. Julie, welcome to the show, and I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, that was wonderful introduction. It was very empowering to hear that back. And yeah, it has really been a lifelong process. And I think one of the things that I find interesting is like how much we evolve over time. And I just want to say thank you, Monique, and for having Moonbeam, such a beautiful place in our community, and for inviting me to be a part of your podcast today. It's an honor.
Yeah, for sure. And it's amazing because we kind of have a small, beautiful, tight-knit community of people in the Sioux, and it's always amazing how many people come in and just sing your praises of all of
Oh,
the great work that you do. So, yeah,
that's
I,
very
I was
kind.
like, I definitely need to have Julie on the show because I'm sure you have so much
Yeah,
to share.
absolutely.
So,
I'm excited to be here.
yeah. So let's start off with a little bit about your personal journey. Can you share
Hmm.
a little bit about what first inspired your journey into the healing arts and how you discovered your path as a
Yeah.
practitioner and a teacher?
I like what you pulled. That is pretty much the main part from my website. And I work at Arch Hospice. That is my full-time job. So it's very much in alignment with my spirit. And I get to use my healing gifts in my day job. And my career prior to going to Arch Hospice, I was a dental hygienist. So I was working with my hands. So I felt that I probably had a healer teacher archetype most of my life and even into childhood. And I think stepping into that really evolved after I had children. But I'll start with my first story of the childhood piece. And I think many can resonate with that piece of um, some people do live their life maybe with more of a 5D experience, meaning the five senses. And as a child, I definitely felt as though I was living with six senses. And
Mm,
I often would say to my mom and my dad that I couldn't necessarily tell the difference between my dream world because it was so vivid and my real world. And I would always tell these wonderful dreams, and they would say, like, oh, Julie has like the best imagination. And I use that to step into my power of I was maybe living life a little bit different than maybe other people, and that felt very lonely at times.
mm,
And I want to share that because I think that a lot of healers and light workers on their path may have felt that as a child and may kind of push it away. So I feel blessed that I was able to pick a career such as dental hygiene that I still do, that I get to work with people. I get to be so close to another person in their energetic system. And what really launched my path was I was sensing things in people's bodies that were going on or able to be very intuitive as a dental hygienist, which I would say is not very helpful. And
Mm.
so I was in Anne-Marie Kayuko, she owns the Healing Loft, her very first Reiki class with a good friend of mine. And at the time I was reading a book called um, the Wheels, I forget the name of it, but it was The Wheels. And my friend Katie was reading the same book. Then I said, I wonder if we could do a Reiki course somewhere. And I Googled and we found Anne Marie, and we were in Anne Marie's first class after she moved to Sault Ste. Marie. And my Qigong path started through my dental provider. She's like, Julie, you have these gifts. Let's start honing in. And I did Qigong first. So my path is unique in that very few people even know what Qigong is, but it's a very beautiful study, a very beautiful practice. And then
Mm.
with Reiki, I dove in. I took Reiki 1 fast. I took Reiki 2 fast. I took Reiki 3 really quickly and was a Reiki teacher by December of 2018 and opened Infinite Healing Arts in uh, January of that following month of 2019. And then I've been practicing ever since, opening Infinite Healing Arts. And so I'll let you ask me questions because that was a really loaded, long answer to my story. And I'll get into more of it as we go through it. But I wanted to explain kind of like my human experience and my 3D path and a little bit of my 5D path.
Yeah, and I love that. And you know what? I didn't actually realize before kind of reading your bio that you do Qigong. So my best friend out in BC, him and his wife they're Qigong practitioners, and I've had
Yes.
the opportunity to be able to go, to open meditation sessions and just a lot of events, and it's a beautiful community in and of itself. But the power, yeah, just yeah, it's a beautiful practice. And so,
Mhm.
do you offer that as
I'll be
Mhm,
honest that I do not offer as much qigong, but it's incorporated in my one-on-one healing sessions.
mhm,
Yes.
mhm,
So qigong is a beautiful movement practice. So I studied under Lin and Chuni Lee, and it was he's out of Minnesota, and it's a lot of the West Coast Qigong. The Spring Forest Qigong is very popular in the West Coast. So I took my level 4, my level 5 out in Alberta. And
okay,
that was an amazing experience for me. And that was back in 2014. So at that time, I wasn't really teaching, but I call it my foundation. And there's a lot of fundamentals from Qigong that translate very directly over into Reiki. Qigong to me is a much more in-depth practice. So it's
mhm,
incorporating movement with energy, the healing modalities, but it also has a lot of nutritional components, Chinese medicine, the circadian rhythms. So I wanted to share that you learn things along your path. And I learned this in my yoga practice. And sometimes you forget, but it's always
mm,
there. And then
yeah,
you draw on it when you need it. So my practice with him is partly a lot of why I named Infinite Healing Arts and why it was so important for me to ask people to be true to their North Star. And a lot of those experiences were rooted in so many people um, aren't necessarily in tune with their body.
mm,
And
that's
there's
very
deep
true.
power in waking up every morning and choosing to eat healthy, choosing to go for a walk. And I always say these things like I get to make these choices for my body because I love what my body does for me every day with so much immense gratitude.
That's such a beautiful
And
sentiment,
but
and,
that's what I learned. That's what I learned in Qigong. I was in a course and a lady was sitting beside me who was probably 70 and she said, I've never loved my body. And for me, I was kind of like, I was maybe 30, like 8 at that time. And I turned over and I was sobbing because I couldn't
mm,
understand having a human experience that didn't have gratitude for my body carrying me, grounding me, letting me do all of the things I get to do. So that immense gratitude was rooted in that. And then sadly, the story of this individual, why he ended up in Minnesota, is where he was sharing his gifts of Qigong, there was a mass genocide.
mhm,
And he has a beautiful, it's not a beautiful story, but he luckily got out, and so he's dedicated his life to spreading the word because he knew that qigong would have been killed off, essentially. So I teach my practices with a knowing that there weren't freedoms always in sharing our truth, in sharing our
Mhm.
gifts. And there's a safety in doing that now, to speak my truth in a safe place. Like, we've come so far. I don't know if we would
Mhm.
have podcasts like this 10 years ago. So I just want to honor that your ability to do this, and for me to do this in my lifetime, means a lot. And the infinite part of me is just that I really feel that our human potential is so great, and
Mm.
there's possibilities out there that many of us have never considered.
Definitely. And I think it's quite common. I see it a lot with people that are just kind of starting on their journey and not feeling connected. Like there's a disconnection between, like, with their physical body.
Hmm.
Uh, and coming home to that is a really beautiful experience, and to feel that gratitude. So I really appreciate you mentioning that.
Hmm.
And so you mentioned feeling like connected and intuitive, like even as a child, and that sometimes maybe kind of feeling lonely. But how did, um, how did you, I guess, like claim that part of you and like allow it to shape your personal and professional path?
Yeah, I definitely have some insane, like, leadership skills. So I think that's the part of it. I often I do this joke sometimes. I'm like, "Oh, who's the weirdo in the room?" I'm like, "Oh, it's me." So I think it's kind of like, you, because not everyone could resonate necessarily. So I think
Mm,
the beauty of community in what we're doing today is I'm creating a safe place for someone else to be in that space of, yes, of course, that's exactly how I felt. And so there's great power in having a forum. And I would say that this resonates often with light workers. I often feel like ADHD, or a lot of these, a lot of them, not to downplay how difficult they are,
mm,
that sometimes we are a light worker, and we just don't know where that space goes. And we're here for maybe a higher mission, a higher path, and no one has created that inquiry or curiosity of another option. So I
mm,
use it more of that, is that I was very clairvoyant. I was very imaginative. I was very creative. I had very vivid dreams. So how that's carried over into my adulthood is I continue to have very vivid dreams that are very clairvoyant. I may have intuition that I do share with people. And I do know there's people who are watching this podcast. Sometimes I share those gifts freely with a complete stranger, randomly out and about. So I think when you walk an intuitive, aligned path with a higher purpose, that's what I'm talking about when I say trying to find your own North Star.
mm,
'Cause
mm,
I don't really believe we're necessarily lost. We may just be detoured, and then that's kind of where the Reiki and the yoga and healing and mind, body, soul connection all come in. So I kind of weave it a little bit different. It's like if I trick someone into going into yoga, and then I trick them into feeling something, and then they feel connected to themselves, that was the whole purpose. But for so
mm,
many people, they might just be going to yoga because they want to um, be stronger. They may want to be more flexible, or they might go to Reiki just because they love the name of it. So I think it's that safety, and it's whatever it needs to be for you in that moment. And there is no judgment. And I really do want to be a humble person, because even in my own path, I weave, I get lost, I lose my way, I feel disconnected. I don't want to explore that I'm ever in this utopic, because I said that in the beginning, I have 3D me, and I fall
mhm,
into that, like, humanness of the human experience. And then there's times where I feel light, and I feel so connected, and I feel grounded and anchored in this beautiful spirituality. But it's not like it's all one. It's this dichotomy of the busyness of today's society. We're not monks in a monastery. So that weaving in between is truly how we're living this new human experience, with glimpses or moments of extreme bliss or joy, and this nirvana that we chase, that is the goal of yoga. Um, but even if you get a glimpse, That's kind of my hope of this infinite human potential that's in there in every single one of us.
Yeah, and it definitely ebbs and flows, especially I think nowadays with just how busy everyone is and just trying to balance so much. And I liked what you said even about like the ADHD or just like having so much going on. And the way that I envisioned it for myself, it was like before I started honing my practices, I was just a lot of like light
Mhm.
fractures,
Yep.
kind of going out into the universe. And then I was able to bring it in to like create like laser focus and like
Yeah.
be able to bring it in. And so I think that happens, yeah, to a lot of us. And being able to recognize that and, yeah, being able to take those intentional steps to, yeah, bring ourselves home, whether that's yoga, whether that's Reiki,
Mhm.
meditation, all of the different things. Um,
You
and
articulate that well because I explain it like I don't have clutter in my brain, but I have a lot of, like, lanes open. And I'm able to, like,
mhm,
almost, like, file them. And whenever I do, like, an energy practice, like, if I do a sound bowl session, I've even had students after doing the crystal sound bowl say, "All of my lanes are in order." And,
mhm,
a good friend of mine, Sarah, she said that at one of the last sessions, and I was like, "Got it." Because a lot of times we get confused with mindfulness too, that it means vacant or empty. But
mhm,
I always love with the truth about mindfulness and meditation is that you're lovingly accepting whatever comes up for you and
mhm,
that you're honoring what comes up for you. So, for me, I feel like there's so many experiences when you hold space. So, if I use the example of, like, working in hospice, a lot of people are like, "That must be difficult." But the truth is, yes, of course it is, but you're holding space for another person. So, if you're a practitioner, even my dental hygiene skills, you're holding space for someone. That individuality, that safety, that ability to be truly seen, heard, and loved, I always say is after an experience with me, I just hope that someone feels that they were loved and cared for
mhm.
unconditionally and that they could come as they are into a space and maybe leave feeling a little bit more refreshed, connected to something when they leave.
I love that. And I love that we're starting to see more of these spaces like within our
Mhm.
city for people to be able to go to. And I know that the people that I've talked to that have come into your space very much feel that way, and it's nice for people to have a safe space, especially well, not especially like people that are new to this
Mhm.
journey, but um, when they are new, they have so many questions. Like you said, it can be a lonely road if you feel if especially if the people that are in your everyday life aren't kind of on that path or connected or have that same perspective. And so to be able to create a space where people can come and resonate with other beings,
Mhm.
it's so nice that you've created that space.
And I like what you're saying there too, because I often say, you know you're in the right space because it feels effortless.
Hmm.
And you know when you're with the right people because you feel so much safety in yourself. And you know you have alignment because everything just kind of crescendos. And
Hmm.
yes, we're still going to have extremely difficult things that happen in our life. We all go through our struggles, really, really hard things. But when you have that um, depth inside of yourself, you're able to face things, I call it, with more of a warrior spirit.
I
And
love that.
and to lead into that, I often say, like, I choose to be the hero in my story.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
'Cause I definitely I'm a very positive person, which I think for some people can be very triggering at times. So, I often say with my positivity is I do want people to know I have struggles. I don't want
Hmm.
people to think that I am a wounded healer. I'm able
Hmm.
to do the things I've done and do because I did my work through being a wounded healer, and I feel that could be a whole podcast in itself, just to speak about the wounded healer because it's a very different archetype of,
Hmm.
and knowing that piece of me. So, also, I would say along the path in the last 6 years, I've also had support from so many individuals, And I always say, if you want to get good at something when you're out of town, maybe go to like a lot of different things. So I started to go to like different yoga studios in different communities, different events in different communities, different spaces, different forums. I did my yoga training with Everlove in Collingwood, which was a brilliant experience for me. And I did that 6 days after my mom had passed away. My mom
Mm,
still wanted me to go do my yoga training. And these lovingly 12 other students, 5 other teachers let me into this space knowing I was a little bit broken. And
mm,
although it was really, really hard, that movement, yoga for me was a way to honor my mom and be a better version of myself. And that to me was really beautiful that they lovingly accepted me, even though they could see I was in pain.
and that would be such a beautiful experience to go through at like such a difficult time and cathartic, I would think, because not
Mhm.
only are you like being held by the people in this space, but also to be able to move like the energy and to be able to work through that in
Mhm.
your physical body as well.
I think that I'm a unique individual because I am also an athlete. I started running in high school. I ran in college. I have always had a I'm also an earth sign. So I always say that to people not to go into astrology and
Yeah.
not to be like totally tangential, but a very grounded spirit. And for me, movement, and that's partly why I fell in love with the qigong practice because it had the healing modalities with movement. Reiki for me is much it's a beautiful way to clear an energetic system and heal on a mind body soul level and to understand how energy and emotion gets stored in us and how it creates illness and disease and to move
Mm,
that. And yoga for me was kind of bringing everything back home. I was able to be in my spirit. I was able to hold space for others and do healing through that yoga practice. But I was also doing so much healing for myself. So
mm,
each yoga practice has specific chakras it's aligning to. And it has really good ways of releasing certain types of nervous system emotion. So
mhm,
what I've learned is I will never know everything about everything. I will be a perpetual student. I will do things that I have to take risks to do, to sometimes not be great at. But that ability to take a risk and that humility to try something, I hope I inspire others to at least try something a little
mm,
bit out of the box, to get a little bit out of the comfort zone, because the immense amount of growth that happens and how much healing happens when you're able to go into a new space, a new community. Even if it's learning, it's like walking into Moonbeam. I remember when I walked into Moonbeam, I couldn't leave. I kept meeting awesome people that were walking into Moonbeam. So that I remember
mm,
meeting the lovely lady who was at the front, and she was telling me all about the crystals, and you had like these beautiful giveaways. I was there for probably over an hour and a half, and people kept walking in, and people I knew, people I didn't know, and I think that's the beauty of community is we are all interconnected. My work is your
mhm,
work, and
mhm,
my hope is that everyone who comes to me is also my teacher. So
mhm,
it's so hard to explain the depth of this in ways that I think are concrete because I sometimes my son will say that to me. He's like, "Mom, prove Reiki to me," and I'm like, "Babe, I can't. Like, I don't have enough science yet, but we're close." So I feel like
mhm,
there's also that part of it, like there's that mysticism where to me there isn't that mysticism for me in the energy world. I believe my energetic systems the same way I believe my biology. I see them, I feel them, I know them. But how do I
mhm.
tell that to someone who can't see them, feel them, or know them?
Yeah, and that can definitely be like a difficult thing to explain, especially if there's a little bit of skepticism um, in their lens of view. But I love when people do finally start to get it. And I even
Mhm.
remember myself, you know, when I started my meditation practice. And at first, it was just me, listening to music, trying to get to center. And then I remember the first time I had like an awakening during meditation, right? And all the colors were swirling and I could see my energy. And I remember the first time my energy kind of expanded beyond myself and I felt myself fully connected to universal energy. And I came out of the meditation with tears streaming down my face because it was such a beautiful experience. But to be able to explain that to someone, like I tried to explain to my partner, I came downstairs and I was talking to him. He didn't quite get it, but I'm hoping one day he has an experience where he's like, I get it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So.
I actually haven't told too many people this. My awakening was after my son Connor, who's such a bright light in this planet. And I was sitting in the computer room at home. He was just one beautiful day like today, sun is shining, and all of a sudden I feel these angel wings grow out of my back, like bigger
Mm,
than the entire room. And I feel overcome with this amazing energy inside myself. And same thing, just absolutely sobbing. But I like to tell people what's beautiful about awakening and beautiful about your gifts, you're not crying because you're sad.
mhm,
You're crying because you're so connected to something so much greater than yourself that consumes you.
mhm,
And that was the year that I made the choice to start working at Arch. And the way that path unfolded for me was very, very seamless. And to be able to, like I said, to be able to work in my gifts. And that's definitely one of my gifts, is to hold space and to connect to the afterlife and to bring messages back to individuals.
mm,
Um, and so I think it's extremely complex because a lot of people, I find it confusing how I can do so many things. But it's like when you have this divine path, and probably for you, like making Moonbeam was so much a higher purpose. Like Infinite Healing Arts came out of me in a 1 week download. And I
mhm,
think I love Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. So it says when you're in your creative mode, you let that creation come through you. And an artist often will say that, like a painter, an athlete, a singer. It's like you let it come through you. And
mhm,
so that's kind of what happened to me with Infinite Healing Arts. I've always, when I've done healing sessions, I get the infinity symbol. It made sense to me. I had been asking my osteopath for 10 years. I'm like, what does the infinity symbol mean? What does it mean? No, like, what does it mean? And I'd say to Emery, what does it mean? What does it mean? And um, it came to be true that it was my unique gift. And it took me almost 15 years, I think, to realize that was my unique gift to share with this world. And when I took my teacher training, we close our our Reiki practice with a triple infinity. And
mm,
so in 2018, when I was finally in the room, in the right space at the right time, it was gifted to me. And I'd already been using it. So it's that whole part of, I don't even know, the divine order, the divine path. It's like, you just know. You know what you know. And
mhm,
I do feel most people can sense spirit, whether that's through their unique senses. So some people see, some people hear, some people feel, some people smell. So also creating space that you and I obviously see,
mhm,
and someone else might hear or sense. And I haven't had a Reiki client yet leave because they couldn't feel anything. So I use that as a pretty good opener, that within 5 to 20 minutes in a one-on-one Reiki treatment, or someone who goes to crystal sound bowls, someone who goes to a yoga class, most people will say, I felt something inside of me.
mhm.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
And so you do have quite a few, I guess, tools that you use, or modalities, Reiki,
Mhm.
QiGong, access bars. And so the Axiatonal alignment,
Mm.
that's one
Mhm.
that most people probably haven't heard
That
much
one
of.
I
So can you?
yeah, that one I learned from Arlen. So, that one
Okay.
was like a gift from Arlen, who was a very, very good, light worker in our community for quite some time. And
Hmm.
so I share that, like, Emery is a teacher for me. My Everlove Studio connection was a teacher for me. Chuni Lane was a teacher for me through my QiGong practices. Arlen was Axiatonal Alignment. Nikki Chillman was Access Consciousness. So you're not really doing any of this work in silos. And
Mm.
so Moonbeam might be where I go to get my crystals. Sound bowls was also for me something that was pretty. I'm a chakra girl. I'll be very upfront. Like if anything is going to make your chakras better, I want it. I'll
Mhm.
eat it. I'll take the flower. I'll do the yoga. So I would say, like, if I were to say any sort of alignment that I want is I want someone to feel a connection to something. And I do really believe that a lot of Louise Hay's work, that
Mm.
illness and disease, if someone is saying like I constantly have low back pain, I just can't get rid of it, and you read into that, or like I always have neck pain, it's always right here, and you read those, or I find that usually the person it'll work out. Sometimes I get dietary messages when I'm working on people, like they're lactose intolerant or certain foods don't work out. So I think that's the weird part of me that comes out through my clairvoyance, is that
Mm.
sometimes I get these unique messages, or maybe they come in and there's something where someone from the other side has a message. So for me, I don't really know where the line where Reiki starts and clairvoyant gifts come in, but I do know you can only give messages to people that are willing to receive them.
Mhm.
So
I do.
that's the unique part.
Yeah, and I do when I receive messages often when I'm doing the sound baths.
Yeah.
And I've learned through that process that sound is like like going through the process of doing the sound bath while I'm helping others to heal. You always get a healing, like you always get
Yeah.
a healing session yourself, but
Mhm.
I was able to learn through that the sound, whether it's the crystal bowls or my rattle or my drum, that the actual sound and
Mhm.
the is what really helps me to open up. So it was a really great experience to be able to realize, because now when I want to channel, because previously it was more if it came, it came, but now I'm able to hone that in a little bit because I've realized that, and I'm a chakra girl like you too, so that's
Yeah.
where it started, but now it's kind of I love how things evolve, and I can see
Mhm.
that's the same with you, how there's these different modalities, and yeah, when you need them, they come,
Yeah.
and but they almost kind of merge into like one.
Yes.
It's you in
Mhm.
totality,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily segmented.
Yeah,
Um,
I often, this will kind of blow you away. So I think to discuss my services, I do teach all 3 levels of Reiki. Um, and that's why I think I get the constant reinforcements every time I teach. It's like, of course I took yoga. I teach which yogic practices align with chakras. Of course I
mhm,
love crystals. I know which crystals align with which chakras. Of course I love flowers and spices because they all align into all of these things that I say allow us to be our most amazing selves. Like this is what I always say when I first start my every Reiki class. We were given essentially a blueprint on being human and how we
mhm,
could have a more infinite human experience. And for some reason, somewhere along the way, it was taken away from us. And Reiki is it bringing it back home. So
mm,
I'm always like, why aren't we teaching this in schools? Why aren't we shouting this from the rooftops to people? And so there is that sacredness to this practice that I kind of started with in the beginning, that I get to do all of these things. I've never looked at them as work. And yes, I do receive compensation for the things that I do, but it's
mhm,
not my bread and butter. It's not something I must do to pay the bills. So for me, it's been very much about building community, building space. And I often will say I might be busy doing Reiki 1 month and I might do a lot of one-on-ones. And then the next month I might be doing a crystal sound. I do one crystal sound bath a month. So I do Reiki infused crystal sound bowls. I do them only usually once a month or upon request. I teach yoga
mhm,
about twice a week. I usually teach Reiki 1 about 3, 4 times a year. and then Reiki 2 about 2, and then 3 is less, and teachers is less. Um, some will request access consciousness. I do aroma touch, which is like with aromatherapy oils, which I love, which I learned from my friend Anna. I usually do a workshop as well. And then I have been doing more corporate offerings. And one of the things that I really grew a lot through was my work at Dampine Healing Lodge as well.
Mm, mm,
So I was there for about 2 years, and that was very, very powerful work for me, very healing for myself. And I also, when I travel, because my brother lives in Burlington, I have connections in Burlington. So sometimes people will be like, "Where are you? Where are you doing this one?" So I also have my network in the Burlington community where I offer all of those same services. And so anyone that'll let me in, anyone who will let me do anything, anyone who will reach out and want to see me, I'm in.
awesome. I love
Yeah.
it. Um, so with um with the yoga training, because you
Mm.
just received your 200-hour, and it's interesting that you've taken that path because I started my
Oh,
yoga teacher training. I don't know if I'll actually teach classes,
they say
but
only 50% do, Monique.
yeah,
It's a low
yeah.
number.
I feel like though it was part of my journey. Like I felt like I want to be able to have an understanding. I want to
Mhm,
be able to I guess, extend my depth of knowing. And so it made sense to be able to like go on that path and just learn to be able to integrate
mhm.
more of that because I feel so aligned to yeah just a lot of the teachings and because I am such a chakra girl
Oh,
that
yeah.
it just made sense and I love doing yoga myself but
Yeah.
so with you how would you say weaving yoga into like
Mhm.
do you incorporate yoga into your healing sessions now or
Yeah.
like
Yes. So I think it's a little bit confusing again because yoga has the 8 limbs.
mhm
So, I actually I think I so it's hard for me because I would probably talk more about how my energy self
mm,
incorporates into my yoga. So if we start there, I think that's helpful. So what started to happen is at the end, people would get up and go, "Oh, wow." And I'd be like, "Okay, yeah." Like, and I was kind of just, but they were like, I could see that they felt something inside themselves. So my
mm,
Sunday class that I teach at For All Yoga, I built on my own. It's a 30-minute slow flow, hatha yoga, which is really good foundational practice anatomically, a lot of breath work, and I incorporate breath work into all of my yoga. And then after the 30-minute flow that we build to, I always build in what I call play. So I allow laughter and a peak pose. So I
mm,
think people were like, this is really fun. So really connecting to our inner child. And then I would do 5 restorative poses, but I would give Reiki during the restorative poses with aromatherapy.
mm,
So I remember like another yoga teacher said to me, wow, Julie, like, how do you do so much? But again, for someone like yourself, it's just Julie being Julie.
mhm,
So those are me offering my gifts. And the second class I teach is power. And the reason why I like power is it draws into my running background, my desire to really push my human potential. And I love kind of chasing. I now chase the yoga high, which I think is not researched. I think I'm chasing the bliss, the nirvana with the runner's high combined. So I
mm,
ran for the runner's high. I know that, but I'm now chasing this feeling at the end of my yoga class. And part of my favorite saying is in yoga is how you show up in life is how you show up in the mat. So if I were to give advice to anyone anyone who's a teacher, just be you.
mm,
They're coming for you. And if I wasn't authentically myself, nobody would enjoy my yoga. And the truth is if someone comes to my yoga and doesn't enjoy it, that's okay. Cuz I need to be so authentically myself in giving that offering to my community.
mhm. I love that you said that too because I think authenticity is so important, and not needing to filter ourselves. I think when we filter ourselves to be what we think people want us to be through our own perception, then yeah, we let go of some of our power. And I love that piece that you said, and how it also ties into just all of the facets that you
Mhm.
are, right? And then people do come for you to be connected to you and to be able to experience you in
Mhm.
all of the ways that you show up. And there's I think, speaking to chakras, we see so many people with closed down throat chakras. And
Mhm.
even, I think there's a big tie between, well, all of the chakras, but the solar plexus and the throat, our
Yeah.
personal power and our communication, and our ability to like express ourselves. And when you take these little moments to be your authentic self, and you start to allow people to fall away that don't resonate or don't align with your authentic self, I feel like it's just this power, this life force
Mhm.
that like grows and glows inside of you. And yeah, so a little bit of a tangent, little bit kind of
Mhm.
but I just love
Oh,
that
yeah,
whole piece of it. And
that resonates. So I started off with that a little bit, Monique, is there is not a day that goes by that I am not reminded that if I was born in another lifetime,
mhm,
that I would be unable to have this conversation with you.
mm,
A, as being female, B, as speaking my truth about what I'm experiencing in my body. So to
mhm,
me, you nailed it. It's I have no shame. I have no fear. I am completely love, and I am safe in this lifetime to be my authentic self. And I don't
mhm,
know if that was the truth in other lifetimes,
mhm.
quite frankly.
Yeah,
So
and
that's huge. That is
yeah,
huge.
and I love seeing people be able to take those steps towards it. And I think that's probably something that both of us help people to do. And sometimes I let people know, I said, it could, sometimes it could be as simple as when you and a group of people are going out to eat, and they say, "Where do you want to go?" Instead of you just saying, "Oh, wherever you want to go," just like little
Mhm,
moments to reclaim your voice in those moments, or just like doing the thing that brings you joy. And all of those little things are steps towards
mhm.
being your most authentic self. And of course, kind of connecting and with your universal energy, spirit guides, and that kind of thing ties into it. Because I feel like when you do feel that connection, then it allows you to stand more firmly
Mhm.
in who you are and how you're experiencing, I guess, this 3D
Yeah.
reality.
And if it's okay, I don't know how long we have, but 2 other things I was gonna say is, I quickly learned when I started to work in a hospice that those that are in end of life are actually more alive.
Mm,
And there is a lot of research out there that when you face your own mortality, you actually choose to live better. So my choice to go work in a hospice has really changed my, um, gratitude, my, like you said, radiance, my vivaciousness for the human experience. And I didn't know it at the time, but when I picked to go to Everlove Studio, and I say this without any sort of, I'll have to have a disclaimer. I'm trained in what's called tantric yoga. So a
mm,
lot of people get it mixed up with tantric, but tantric by definition is the most joyous, most delightful human experience you could ever imagine. And this is kind of concepts in access consciousness of how can life get any better than this? Like sometimes we're just asking the wrong question. Like, how can I
mhm.
enjoy my ice cream more?
Yeah.
How can I, when I'm stretching, move my body and let my body talk to me to enjoy the movements in myself more? When I'm dancing, can I dance like no one's watching and just intuitively listen to my spirit and my soul? Do I listen to
Mhm.
the music I like, or do I listen to the music my partner likes because I'm afraid to speak my truth? So I wanted to bring that up because that's the other thing I think is unique about my yoga is maybe you're doing some delightful poses and I'm saying to you, like, enjoy yoga. And some people are like, what, enjoy? Or like when you're running, like how can you enjoy your run more? So little things that I like to, like, I'm launching some yoga in the park. I've been doing some pop-ups. I love nature. I love
Mhm.
being outside. Yoga in many countries is done outside, not inside, because they don't have winter 8 months of the year. So I think it's a lot of the things are kind of like going back to basics, honoring sacredness, but also allowing human experience to let us evolve and truly removing any of that, like you said, interference and
Mhm.
letting it be its essence of this beautiful light and this unconditional love that has so much infinite potential. And so when you opened your store, I was like, so like, bee, like, ooh, like, so, and I know that I'm not the only one. Like, that's huge. And
Mm.
I hope you're like the most wild success and that everyone in Sault Ste. Marie is wanting to go check out Moonbeam.
Thank you. Yeah, we're actually turning 3 next
Mhm.
month, and I've been taking a lot of time to reflect, and I've just been feeling so much gratitude. Um, One that, the store's still there. We've been able to make it to the 3-year
Yeah.
mark, but the it's the people, and it was I didn't really have a way to, like, meet all of all of the people,
Yeah.
previously, and so, the community, I think, is the thing that's been the most beautiful experience, um, experience to date.
Mhm.
So we do have a couple minutes, um,
Yeah.
left, so I just wanted to ask if there's, like, if in your if you can feel within yourself, if there's one message or, like, piece of
Oof.
wisdom that, you feel that
Yeah.
you wanna share today. You've already shared so much, so I
Oh,
don't wanna.
yeah, I am like a bit of a wisdom sharer. Oh, that is so hard. Like, I kinda did make, like, my tagline, like, infinite potential, infinite possibilities, infinite love. I really love the word infinite potential because I would say that I deeply resonate with probably more than one, because
Mm,
finding your North Star is a huge part of, I think, the whole part of the human experience, and lovingly accepting that we don't need to necessarily all figure it out early. Like, if we don't figure
mhm,
it out until the end of our life, that's just as good, right? Everyone's path is so unique.
mhm,
I would probably, if I were to tell anyone that was watching to do something, I'd be like, try something new. Just totally get out of your box and try something new. That would probably be my number one thing to say to someone, and that you are enough and that you are so infinitely loved even if you don't always feel that way.
I love it.
Yeah.
Um, and Dawn, who's viewing live on YouTube, she said mentioned that your classes have been
Aw,
awesome. So yeah,
that's
I just thought
fantastic.
I would
And
mention
I
that
probably
too.
didn't shout out to Denise Bell and the team at For All Yoga. They've been great mentors for me along the way too. Like, Denise has such a caring, loving way and welcomed me so lovingly into her practice. We recently had a fire at the Marconi, so we had to pivot and shift, and looks like we'll be up back in the studio after the May long weekend. So
Oh, that's
I
good.
really do appreciate the kindness that those I'm able to hold space alongside offer back to me. And I do know, like, individuals that I've done Reiki one-on-ones for that have had, like, deep, meaningful impact the same way they've done it for me. So, um, you don't do it for the thank yous, but the thank yous and the faces at the end of a class or the end of a session, or if you do like a workshop, or um, I was fortunate enough to do like a big corporate training, and the feedback coming back in is huge. So I just know that you and I and individuals like us in our community are doing such great work, and
Mhm.
it's so needed.
Yeah, and I love that it's even just as a, I guess, society, people are more open to the work that we do, and people that I would never have expected, come
Mhm.
forward and want to be able to get connected and want to be able to do work together. And it's nice to see, especially more men becoming
Mhm.
open, because primarily we see a lot of women,
Mhm.
or I do definitely. And I'm just seeing more and more men kind of open up and being like wanting to even, yeah, be more connected and even be in tune with both their divine masculine and divine
Yes.
feminine energy, and
Mhm.
to be able to claim that. And so I feel like there's a conscious collective awakening that's kind of
Mhm.
happening.
I definitely feel a huge part of that wave in my 2018 timeline. I very much resonate with divine masculine, divine feminine energy. I've had a lot of work done in that regard. In particular, I'm very blessed. I have had a lot of male clientele for my Reiki 101 and my yoga. Um, there's something really beautiful about a divine masculine from the perspective of a divine feminine in their ability to have so much grace and softness and
Hmm.
humility. Um, it heals our spirit. And I hope that I can be a healed enough divine feminine to hold space for others to feel that they can be in their divine masculine. So
Hmm.
it kind of is all so full circle. And I would have to agree with you. We're on the wave of paving a new path. And the more light workers we have on this path, the more healing we're going to have in this world. And I'm just so happy to be along for the ride.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, so before we jump off today, I just want to give you a moment if you want to share, like, do you have any
Mhm.
upcoming offerings, workshops, events
Yes.
people should
So
know about?
yeah, so last night I did do a Mother's Day workshop, and that was deeply powerful for me losing my mother as well, and to have community come. It would be my second Mother's Day without my mom, and I don't want that to be a sad thing because she wants us to celebrate. So I partnered with a good friend of mine, Sarah, who just started a new business. So I like to collaborate. So I also wanted to say, like, for you to have a forum to show everyone else what everyone else is doing at no cost to us is tremendously kind. So we had 5 come, mother, daughter, women. It was open to everyone. We did an hour and a half of like the yoga practice that we mentioned earlier in my slow flow style with
Hmm.
Reiki. Had a beautiful spread, charcuterie, and then we did flower design. And Sarah shared a lot of the meaning behind the flowers on an energetic
Mm.
level. And she did really like she spun the rose on the thorns and kind of used an analogy of like life can be so rough and hard, but yet it's so beautiful and soft all at the same time. And everyone left happy. So you'll be seeing more of me doing more workshops. I might be a little bit quieter this summer. I definitely will be out of the studio more. I'm offering a Reiki one the end of May and the first Sunday, and last Sunday in May, the first Sunday in June, a Reiki one class. Always open to one-on-ones. I have a one-on-one right after this.
Yeah.
So really excited about that. Corporate workshops. I have one coming up in June. And then I have a sound bowl session on Tuesday, but I'm already sold out. So I'm going to continue doing sound bowls, and my yoga in the park will be every Tuesday at 5:30 till
Mm.
6:15, and I'm going to move around because we got enough
Awesome.
parks to go to. So I'm at Fort Creek on Tuesday, and I'm just doing pay what you can. So
Love it.
lots of pop-ups. So if you want to partner with me, if you want to find out more, my website's pretty great. It's not active right now, so I'll update it today. My events are outdated, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Julie, thank you so much. This has been
I
a really, I could just talk to you for hours and
I know, I
hours.
feel like, is this our first time that we've actually met? I think it
Um,
maybe second? I
Maybe,
feel like we've
yeah,
only met, like,
yeah,
1 or 2 times, so it's so good to
yeah,
see you and have this time with you.
yeah. We'll have to do this again for sure.
Yes. For sure.
And I truly appreciate you coming on and sharing just, yeah, all of your insights. And yeah, so thank you. Thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you.